Kelechi would quietly leave her home to the river. Adugo secretly followed. Kelechi noticed some footsteps behind her. She turned to check, but she didn't see anybody. Kelechi actually hid in the bushes. She stayed there until she was sure that nobody was. Amodo was a village filled with hard-working people. Among the villagers was a girl called Kelechi, who was known for her beauty and grace. She was kind to all, her smile brightening even the darkest days. But there was one thing about Kelechi that no one in the village could understand. She only took her bath at midnight. At the stroke of midnight, when the villagers slept, Kelechi would quietly leave her home and make her way to the river bank. Everyone in the village wondered why Kelechi never takes her bath at the river during the day, just like the other girls. In the village of Amodo, girls often visit the river during the day, fetch water, wash their clothes, play in the river, and even take their baths. The only girl that doesn't do that is Kelechi. And they keep asking themselves, why is Kelechi not always joining us at the river? What is she even avoiding? Kelechi never gets to be seen during the day at the river. They kept on wondering and asking, but nobody knew why Kelechi never visited the river during the day. A young lady in the village called Adugo realized how Kelechi never takes her bath, and she was determined to find out why she never took her bath during the day and just at midnight. Adugo decided that she would follow Kelechi one night to find out what exactly she does at the river at midnight and what is so special about her not taking her bath during the day. So, the next day, Adugo secretly followed Kelechi because once it is 12 p.m. at night, Kelechi will quietly leave her home to the river. Adugo secretly followed Kelechi. While they were on their way, Kelechi noticed some footsteps behind her. She turned to check, but she didn't see anybody. But in her heart, she already knew that someone was following her. And immediately, Kelechi diverted to another road, following a road that doesn't lead to the river. And Adugo lost track of her because she couldn't even see Kelechi anymore. Her plan has failed. Meanwhile, Kelechi actually hid in the bushes. She stayed there until she was sure that nobody was around, and she quietly sneaked out of the bush into the river to take her bath as usual. Even Kelechi's mother, Ngozi, who adored her daughter so much, was troubled. She wondered why her daughter never takes her baths. She knew there was something wrong about Kelechi, but she decided not to bother. After all, she was her daughter. Guess what? Ngozi also has a secret that she has promised not to reveal to anyone. A secret she has kept since the day Kelechi was born. You see, Kelechi was no ordinary girl. She was a gift from the goddess of the river, given to Ngozi when she had wept by the water, praying for a child to fill her emptiness. The goddess heard her cry and appeared one fateful night, shimmering like the moon on the river's surface. Kelechi will be yours, the goddess had said. Her voice was sharp, but she belongs to the river. She must never be touched by water during the day, or the secret of her true nature will be revealed. She may only return to the river at midnight, when the world sleeps and the spirits of the water are free. Ngozi had agreed, too overwhelmed with joy at the thought of having a daughter to ask too many questions. And so Kelechi grew up, beautiful and beloved, but always keeping her distance from the river during the day. She never complained, never asked why, for deep down, she knew there was something about her that had tied her to the water in a way that no one else could understand. But her younger brother, Okechi, was not so easily fooled. He had always admired his sister, but recently, he noticed the change in her behavior. She seemed distant, lost in her thoughts, and always disappeared at night. Determined to protect her, Okechi decided to follow her one night to find out where she went and what secret she was hiding. That night, as the village slept, Okechi crept after his sister. He watched as Kelechi moved silently through the dark, her white wrapper glowing in the moonlight. She walked with purpose, her steps leading her directly to the river. Okechi hid behind a tree, peeking out as Kelechi stood by the water's edge. Suddenly, Kelechi began to change. Her legs shimmered, and before Okechi's eyes, they fused together to form a long tail that has shiny scales. Her skin glowed, and her hair seemed to float around as if it were alive. She was no longer the girl Okechi knew, but a mermaid, a creature of the river. Okechi gasped in shock, but Kelechi did not hear him. She slipped into the water, her body moving gracefully as she swam deeper into the river. Okechi watched as she disappeared beneath the surface, and for a moment, he thought he had lost her. But then, from the center of the river, he saw more figures emerging. Other mermaids, their laughter echoing softly in the night air. Kelechi swam among them, her face full of joy, as she greeted her companions. They spoke in a language Okechi could not understand, their voices like the song of the river itself. For hours, they swam and danced in the water, their movements synchronized like a beautiful dance. As the clock neared 3 a.m., Kelechi began to leave the water, her tail turning back into legs as she walked onto the shore. She looked peaceful, her face serene, as if the river had washed away all her worries. She dressed quickly and returned to the village, unaware that her brother had seen everything. Okechi, shocked by what he had witnessed, returned home, his mind racing. How could his sister be both human and mermaid? What did it mean? And what will happen if the villagers find out? The next morning, Okechi confronted Kelechi. "Sister," he began, his voice trembling, "I know your secrets. I saw you at the riverbank last night." Kelechi's face went pale. She had feared this day would come, but she had not expected it to be soon. "Okechi, you must not tell anyone," she whispered. "If the villagers find out, they will be afraid of me. They will think I am cursed." "But you are not cursed," Okechi said. "You are not, my dear sister. You are just a mermaid. But then, how is this possible?" Kelechi sighed, tears welling up in her eyes. "It is true. I am not fully human. I was given to Mama by the river goddess. I am tied to the water, and that is why I can only bath at night. If water touches me during the day, my true form will be revealed. I cannot let that happen, Okechi." Okechi listened, his heart heavy with the weight of her words. He realized how much his sister had sacrificed to live a normal life in the village. He had always known there was something special about her, but he never imagined it would be this. "I won't tell anyone," he promised. "But why do you keep going back to the river? What happens there?" Kelechi smiled sadly. "I go to the river to be with my kind, the mermaids. It's the only time I feel like myself, where I don't have to hide. But I also go to fulfill the promise Mama made to the goddess. The river is my home, Okechi, but I don't belong fully there or here. That's why I must keep my secrets." As the days passed, Okechi kept his promise, and Kelechi continued her midnight visits to the river. But the peace won't last. One night, as Kelechi made her way to the river, that Adugo that came the first time spotted her again. She followed her to the river, hiding in the shadows, just as Okechi had done before. This time, Adugo succeeded. When she saw Kelechi transform into a mermaid, she was horrified. She ran back to the village, spreading rumors of witchcraft and curses. By morning, the whole village was in an uproar. Kelechi is a spirit. She has been deceiving us all, Adugo cried. Some wanted her banished from the village. Others whispered about sending her back to the river for good. The villagers gathered at the village square, and Kelechi being in their middle. Adugo went home, took a water in her pot, ran back to the village square and poured it on Kelechi. And instantly, Kelechi's legs turned into a mermaid. It became a shimmering tail, shining so glowing and bright. Kelechi started pleading, "Please do not harm me. Please, I cannot survive with this tail if I am not in the water. I beg you, I am not a witch. This is just the way I was born." Fearing for her daughter's life, Ngozi begged the village elders to let Kelechi be. "She is not a witch," she said, her voice shaking. "She was a gift from the river goddess, born out of my pain and sorrow. She has done no harm to anyone." Adugo started shouting, "No, she is cursed. Can't you see that she has a fish tail? She is a witch. She doesn't belong here." "I am not a witch," Kelechi said. "I am part of the river. I'm part of this land. I never meant to deceive anyone. The river is my home, but so is this village. All I ask is to be allowed to live in peace. Please, my villagers." The villagers murmured among themselves, unsure of what to believe. But Okechi stepped forward, standing beside his sister. "She is our family," he said. "She has lived among us all these years without causing harm. Let her be." After much debate, the village elders made their decision. Kelechi will be allowed to stay. So, they decided to take Kelechi with her fish tail back to the river, because that is the only way she can survive with the tail and then transform back to human. They lifted Kelechi up, carrying her to the river, and she swam into the river, and within a few minutes, she came out of the river and transformed back with legs. The villagers concluded that, since she was of no harm to the village, they would let her be. Adugo watched in shame, because she was the one that exposed Kelechi in the first place. Seeing that her plan of getting rid of Kelechi did not work, she decided to plead with her for forgiveness. "I'm sorry, Kelechi. I didn't mean any harm. I was just curious to know why exactly you took your bath in the midnight. Besides, you are the most beautiful maiden in this village, and I was jealous of your look, so I had to find out why you always took your bath in the midnight, only to find out that you are a mermaid. I'm sorry, Kelechi." And Kelechi responded, "It's okay, Adugo. I understand." The village of Amudo respected Kelechi's true nature. They were no longer surprised to see Kelechi visit the river at the midnight, because they already know why, and everyone lived in peace and harmony. Dear viewers, we all have secrets and parts of ourselves that we hide from the world. But true acceptance comes from being honest with those we love and finding a balance between who we are and where we belong. Thank you so much for listening to my story. My name is Onyi of Onyi Stories and Folktales. And please, if you haven't subscribed, kindly click on the subscribe button. Turn on the notifications so when I post more stories, you get to see them. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your support. I do not take it for granted. And if you can still hear my voice to this time, it means you heard the story to the end. You are the real MVP. Thank you for your support. I do not take it for granted. See you in my next video. Bye-bye.